Okay, we'll get a few opening comments on the game, and then we'll take your questions.
Well, excited about the tight nature of the game and the back and forth battle. I like it when both quarterbacks get to kind of compete and do 2-minute, and the guys get to play. So that was really good from a competitive standpoint. I thought I got to see the look in some guys' eyes that they were out there competing, playing hard. That part was good, and no major injuries, which is also good. So with that, I'll open it up.
Sure, you had like 83 pass attempts, 32 rushes. That kind of way you thought it'd go. You want to see more of that today, not do what you
Yeah, well, it's catered around 2-minute situations, so we have last 4 minutes of both halves. You have to go 2-minute. Therefore, you're always going to have more passes in those situations. I thought I was a little worried about the weather conditions, being able to throw the ball and wet and throwing it. I thought it might get sloppy, but the weather helped out and cooperated towards the end and was able to throw the ball, especially there maybe the first half. It had pretty good conditions for a little bit, less wind. So.
You talk about all three quarterbacks and on that line. Did two young guys do a good job?
Did a nice job managing the game. I thought they, Dwayne had a couple sloppy snaps, maybe a drop snap there. I thought Stetson did a good job. Stetson's played in that game before. So both those guys did a nice job of managing it. A lot of throwing situations, not a lot of defenses out there as far as number of volume of defense. I mean, we scaled back that package and scaled back a lot of the offense. A lot of the new things we're doing weren't in that package today, but I was pleased with the way Stetson and Dwan managed, not the huddle, because we don't really huddle, but managed the game from the fields. And that's important. That's important for their growth. They're only going to get better through practicing and repping and playing in that kind of environment.
Coach, you said in past press conferences that you're looking for explosive plays on offense, havoc on the defense. What are you really looking for from the special teams unit?
Consistency. I mean, we have to find some returners, and we really don't get to evaluate that today. I thought catching the ball, which that was the objective, to catch it and possess it. We didn't do live special teams. We'll probably have to do some of that in the fall. Punt return and kickoff return. I thought that Camarda hit some good punts, and I thought the field goal he hit was great, and Rod's been really consistent. So, I mean, we're looking for consistency, and we're looking to improve in some areas that we weren't great statistically in. But the number one thing we got to do is find some return men.
The emergence of Brian Herring, we've seen some highlight videos. He's been running over people today. Obviously, he did a lot of things. Where is Brian at, and what do you look for from him moving forward?
Brian's a good back. Brian's gotten better. I mean, I've seen Brian, not necessarily this spring, but I've seen him. You got to remember, he's been here for several springs, and one of those springs he carried the ball 20, 30 times when Nick and Sony were coming back as seniors. So I've seen a lot of body of work from Brian, and he's got really good skill set of catching the ball. He's got a good understanding of our offense, and I thought he was really productive today.
I'm sure Stetson was probably far from perfect today, but when you look at the overall, when he signed, when you guys signed him, obviously, we have the feedback from the fans. There was some concern you bring him back a walk-on guy. He's not very big. Was lightly recruited, but you guys brought him back because of what you saw out of him. Mm-hmm. Did we get to see some of that today with some of the throws he was able to make and move around in the pocket? Is that kind of why he was brought back?
Yeah, we got a lot of confidence in Stetson. I don't look at things from the perspective of what you can't do or what somebody says about you or whether you're on scholarship or not. We recruit walk-ons around here as hard as anybody in the country because I think it's important, and I think our state provides us great ability to go get good football players, and some of those players develop into scholarship players, and we've had several players do that here, and Stetson's one of those guys. I mean, he went and he played good last year. I mean, he walked out of here with a scholarship in hand, and he came back with one, and I thought he played good today.
Coach, Anthony with the Atlanta Boys, can you just talk about the play of Jeremiah Holloman and just the other players you look to step up on the receiving corps as soon as the season begins in September? JJ's
had a very consistent spring. He's physical, competitive. He runs the stop routes real well. He's made a couple really good plays on the deep ball in some other practices. Today, he had a little slow start there getting started with the offense, but he's a model of consistency. He's got really strong hands and does some nice things. As far as playmakers, we're looking for all those guys to step up and play and do a good job. I was unfortunate Demetrius Robertson wasn't able to scrimmage. He got sick last night and wasn't able to come out there, but he's had a really good spring.
Coach, what about Matt Landers? He seemed to be very intimately involved in a lot of stuff. Obviously had a touchdown and a long catch.
Yeah, Matt's had a good spring. I mean, Matt's level of consistency has to improve. Matt has to play to Matt's standard all the time. And we've seen flashes of really good things from Matt. We're seeing more of those flashes. But with those flashes, we've got to have him come down with some 50-50 balls. There was a couple balls I thought he should have pulled down early and get going. He's become a better special teams player, too, so he's able to contribute and been more competitive. We need Matt to step up for us.
Our offensive line on the red squad, is that going to be the number one group you think coming into the fall?
Here we go. Guys, we could have put any lineup out there, and those guys can't switch teams within games. So that was the number one O-line for that scrimmage. What they do in the offseason, what they work out like, how they do in school, how they compete in fall. There's still 2 springs left before the first game. So we have 2 more versions of what we just did before we play a game. And there's some guys that aren't here right now on the offensive line. So to say who's going to be out there, you guys will predict all that. It's going to come by what happens on the field for us.
Kirby, as a follow-up to the offensive line, how special could this group be given the experience? And you know they're going to hear a bunch of hype about how good they are. Do you think they've got the maturity? And does the competition alone for those positions help them from any kind of complacency setting in?
Sure, competition helps. I mean, we've had a great rotation. Guys have competed really hard at right guard. Cade Mays has done a great job competing over there. Right tackle's really up for grabs. I mean, both guys are competing. There's a lot of positions in there that guys continue to get better. Can it be a strength of our team? Yeah, but so can a lot of positions. I don't think that you get things off of forecasting or projections. You get them off doing it. And we got to have them go out and play well to be a successful offense.
It seemed like the DBs were, or at least Stokes for sure, was on top of this guy a lot. Is this pretty normal for what you saw here today?
He's done a good job. I thought all the DBs have done a good job improving, and sometimes we want him on top, sometimes we want him on the low side. Sometimes it depends on the coverage and where his help is, but he certainly made a big play to start it off today. I thought that was a good fight for the ball and scoring with it when he got it, and he's a kid that has come a long way from a guy that really wasn't a DB coming out of high school. He was just an athlete, and he's very conscientious to doing things the right way. When you teach Stokes something, he listens and then he applies it, which when you combine that ability with talent, you've got a pretty good player.
Nakobe Dean recorded 5 tackles. I know you haven't had film review yet, but what could his role realistically be, being that young of a player at that type of position?
Well, his role could be as much as a starting linebacker, or his role could be as much as a special teams player this year. He could be a third down guy. It's going to be determined by the other players and himself, how much he grows and gets better. I can't really say to what he did or didn't do today. It was hard to tell from the vantage point and dealing with all the fake refs.
Go ahead.
Sorry. He mentioned Nakobe. He and Nolan both got their hands dirty today. Are they progressing like you want them to?
They got their hands dirty. Define that for me.
They got some tackles.
Oh, they got some tackles. Yeah. Their progression, their progression has been great. I think what you got to be careful of is, okay, well, why are they playing with the group they're in? Is it because of a lack of depth? Is it because of wanting to get the guys on the other squad more reps and making sure they grow and get reps? They're both very bright. They're both very sharp, intelligent, mature freshmen, but they have not been through a college football fall. They haven't been through a college football game. They haven't played in an SEC game, and they both got a lot of growing to do, but I'm pleased with where they are.
In that same vein, it seemed like a lot last year you talked about knockback tackle and then wanting guys to kind of, unload on guys at the point of attack. And, I guess Louis Cine kind of stood out with that today. What was his spring like, and what was it like kind of seeing him out there doing those things?
He's an exciting player. He's probably behind from a learning curve standpoint because we teach a lot of defense to our secondary, and he's made some wow plays this spring, and that doesn't mean he's going to go out there and start. That means that he's competing for playing time, and we're making him play both safety spots, which is probably more taxing on him, but that gives us the ability to play him at either spot if anybody gets injured. He's going to be competing with guys for playing time. I think where he's going to really show up at special teams because he is a very physical, likes contact. He's a hitter.
How do you
How would
sense,
you grade these last 5 weeks, and were you able to accomplish all you wanted to in the spring?
I don't think you ever accomplish all you want. There's so much we want to do. It just seems like you run out of time, but I do think the advent of NCAA rules allowing you to have walkthroughs between practice, that's just so invaluable because it's like a practice within a practice. We're able to get a lot of things done from a special team standpoint, stay relatively healthy, but we're still in need of some depth at some positions.
How do you assess Ben Cleveland's spring game today?
I can't really assess a spring game until I watch it, so it would be hard for me to say. I wouldn't be a good coach if I came up here and commented on how he played in the spring game, but he had a good spring. I think if you ask Ben, he has grown and gotten more comfortable with the bullets flying because everybody's like, well, you just snap your fingers and you're right back being Ben Cleveland of old. Well, he missed a lot of time where he had, things not going both ways, not dealing with checks and calls, and he's back in the action, and he certainly looks 100% to me.
You got to feel good about tomorrow. Kirby hit that 49-yard field goal, but I guess that's no surprise the way he kicked in high school, right?
Yeah, he's a tremendous kicker. I mean, he initially got recruited primarily as a kicker and punter as well. He's a talented kid. I thought he hit that one really good.
Coach, you had a lot of success within the SEC East and been able to go to the SEC Championship. Just by looking at the spring games since you've been here, what is one thing you know when analyzing spring games that helps you be successful to win the SEC East?
I don't think there's any correlation between the spring games and winning the SEC East. I think it's a lot of correlation between that weight room, recruiting, fall practice. I think spring games are more for recruiting purposes and for finding out how your young players adjust and adapt to environments like we just had. Some of our kids hadn't been in front of that many people, so you find out how they respond, and that's really the purpose of it.
Jake said he didn't have.
I think James got more confident in his protection. I think he has an understanding of the offense even better. He's more confident in his ball security. James has improved, and we need James to step up. I thought the second scrimmage last week, he really flashed some quickness. And, coming off that ankle surgery, you worried, did he have that step back? And he didn't get much of a chance to do much today, but I thought he flashed last scrimmage.
Kirby, Jake said he didn't have a great scrimmage, but how would you evaluate his spring, and as he just continue to take another step as the leader?
Yeah, I think leadership was the biggest thing he took a step forward in assessing his personality on the receivers, on the O-line, not being timid to step up and say things to guys when things need to be said. And not that he's ever been afraid to do it, but I think he's asserted himself more.
Kirby, I think SEC crowds were a little bit down across this spring for various reasons. What do you think about today, given the weather, given Easter weekend?
Excited. I mean, at the point we were walking in, I was a lot more worried about, because I'm asking myself if I'd have came out in that weather. I doubt it. So to have the crowd that we had, I was very pleased. And what's amazing to me is the dog walk. I mean, those folks are as loyal as they come, because they're out there in the rain and the weather and wanting to get a handshake. It just says a lot about our fan base, our state of football here, and the love for football in the state. I mean, I can't thank the fans enough for braving some of those conditions and getting out and doing it.
Kirby, we've asked you a lot about the wide receivers this spring. Did this game and then the last few weeks make you feel more confident about where they?
No.
Okay.
I never feel more confident about our receiving corps because we just don't have numbers. I mean, it's the thinnest position. I mean, their D-line tight end. It's said over and over and over and over, and it's probably more concerning than tight end, only because those guys play on special teams, and we lost a tremendous amount of special team snaps out of our wide receiver room. And I don't know the kids we got coming in. I know the kids we got coming in, but I don't know how they're going to respond. I don't know how they're going to respond to the first time they get hit in the mouth, first time they got to go compete against a guy one-on-one and answer the bell. So I'm not comfortable with where we are at receiver, certainly no.
On tight end, do you think Charlie's going to have to step up and take a little more responsibility now that Nada and Jackson and the rest of those guys?
Charlie's always taken responsibility. Charlie's one of the best leaders, hardest workers I've ever been around, and he's been a leader since he's been here. He'll continue to do that.
Kirby, the public doesn't really see what happens between now and August, but obviously coaches do. What are you looking for, and what do you want to see?
I want to see some strength gains. I want to see some guys coming in, rehabbing injuries that maybe weren't in the spring. We got some really valuable players that we think could impact our season that didn't go through spring. And I think it's critical that they get the right mental makeup to go have a great fall camp, because when you miss that body of work they just missed, it puts them behind. And summer workouts, we're looking for guys for some leadership to go out there, and they have to do 7-on-7s on their own without us. So they got to go out there and handle it.
Kirby, I think you talked about Zamir before the spring started. Where is he now in his recovery? Zamir White?
He's fine. He's doing well. We're expecting to come back. I don't know what you're asking, Mark. Are you saying, like, is he in week 17, week 18? He's right where he needs to be, according to Ryan Corson's schedule of knee injury. He does individual. He goes out and does blitz pickup and walkthroughs. He catches balls, but he doesn't do competitive contact.
You talked a lot about havoc plays coming in. What did you see today in that regard?
We didn't have a lot of opportunities for havoc because we didn't have our whole. We only had 1 5-man pressure, 1 blitz, 1 call that you could do. We weren't going to go out there and just. We want to find out what the players can execute. That's not the purpose of a spring game, to go throw everything at the kids. We want to let, especially the guys that don't have game experience, execute the call and find out what they can do. So there was not a lot of opportunity for havoc, and there was probably some missed sacks out there too that could have been blown and called several times that would have created more havoc. But we don't measure it based on the officials and their numbers. We do it when we watch the tape and say, would that have been a sack? Would that not have been a sack? But we continue to work on havoc, and it's going to be a big word for us all year.
2 more questions? 1 more?
Better get it fast. Thank y'all for waiting. I apologize for being late, guys.